Yeah, I wrote myself a note as you were speaking, because you made me think that maybe there are lessons that we can learn from the Byzantine Empire. It failed in the end, but what lessons do you think can be drawn from this historical relationship between the church and the empire? They were two separate things with separate leaderships, but they were one as part of the nation state. Is that practical in today's world?
Well, this is probably the thing that would most go against the grain of everything that people think, right? Like this idea that there could be a synergy or a symphonia between church and state is very antithetical to everything after the Enlightenment, and with good reason, because in my view, the papacy was very abusive to this, idea of the not separation of powers. It's not that there was this supposedly separation of church and state, but depending on what you mean by that, basically there's a sphere that the church is involved in, and there's a sphere of life that the state's involved in, and there might be some, overlap there, but they're two heads of the same body of the Byzantine eagle is the idea. So I think that there will always be a tendency to move in that direction, because in my view, there's no such thing as a purely neutral view of the world. And other religions like Islam, they don't see a separation between the sacred and the secular, or at least they don't tend to. The more Orthodox Muslims don't tend to see it that way. And a lot of people in the West, I think, would see that as a weakness, but they might actually be a strength, because it allows their people to really push their religion in every area of life. And I think people in the West are going to have to make a decision between a type of Christianity that is all-encompassing and does have an impact on the civil state, or they're going to have to choose something like that, because the Enlightenment idea of everybody having a kind of a neutral, almost deistic Freemasonic Enlightenment principle of, well, we can all just agree that we should have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, these sort of negative liberties. I just don't think that's going to work in the future to give adequate place for the relationship of church and state. I think that people are going to be getting to say, well, wait a minute. So I've got Christianity over here. If Christianity, so-called, is telling me that the state should be atheistic and secular, but privately I can have my own private Christianity. Then I've got Islam over here, where Allah is the Lord of area of life. Well, this kind of makes a little more sense than this idea that God is only the Lord of your personal life, but he has nothing to do with the state. This is literally, I don't know how people in America and the West came to this conclusion, especially in the Orthodox world. This is like Quakerism. This is Roger Williams's Baptist stuff. It blows my mind that the whole history of the church is, an idea at least of symphonia once the church was no longer persecuted after Constantine and Theodosius. I tend to take a pretty, unpopular stance that Americanism is not necessarily the history of Orthodox Christianity.